Well, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, g'day, good luck, hello, etc., etc. Greetings, Earthlings. It's my pleasure to bring you another review, much in the same vein of the Brawl and Boss, the IS-3. This is another sturdy Russian machine. It's the IS-4, the ultimate tank in the second Rusky line, the Tier 10 IS-4. Now, we've previously done the ST1, the Tier 9 of this same bunch. We've done the KV3. We also did this week the IS-3, the T44, and a KV3 Gold Mastery video. So chucking the content out there like it's nobody's business. Before we go any further, I am Bushka on Blitz. If you want to catch up with me, you can simply go onto the Asian Blitz forums under the English section, the game forum there. Always having a chat, lots of people on there, putting on requests for videos, having a chat about the reviews, talking about the game in general. Always good to catch up. So if you haven't, you should try that if you're into the game itself. Likewise, on Twitter, you can follow me at Bushka on Blitz, or just drop me a line in game, as people tend to do. Always happy to have a plat if I've got the time. It's a hard thing having a job, kids, the whole 9 yards. But anyway, I digress. We're here to talk about the IS-4. Now, this will be the last Russian tank I review for a wee while, simply because we've done so many Russian tanks, lots of mediums, both the heavy lines. They've really, the only thing we haven't really ventured into is the Russian tank destroyer realm, mainly because I haven't got there myself, but I intend to remedy that very shortly. Now, we're going to go through this same old, armour, mobility, and the gun itself, but it bears mentioning very early on that I'm a firm believer in this tank. This is my new Tier 10 heavy tank. This is my favourite. I've read plenty of bad reviews of this tank. People are particularly upset about it, saying it's worse than the ST1, that the weapon is average, that it doesn't do much, and I just don't see any of it. I think it's an absolutely brilliant machine. It's not the first time I've found myself in opposition with the general consensus, and I'm happy to be there. There's nothing quite so wonderful as being contrarian. Now this one, what's so special about this? Well, bugger me, I think it's a better side scraper than the E100. I'm putting it out there right now. Look at that giant behemoth of a thing with that huge derp cannon, and then look at this little thing here. You'd be surprised to know this IS-4 has 2,200 hit points. The IS-7 has 1,900, and the T110E5 has 2,000 even. The IS-4, as small and diminutive as it is when compared to its monster cousin, is only 200 hit points under the E100. It's also got a much lower profile. So while you are side scraping, if there's anything coming up on the flanks, you are absolutely likely to get hit in that ginormous barn door side turret of the E100. Now, it doesn't have the spaced armour the E100 has, but it's low profile and it's very, very bouncy. Frontal shoulders, sides, rear, all of that make this an absolute gold digger when it comes to popping up bounces and side scraping your life away. So you're going to see plenty of side scraping in the video. Angling in the general field is also good. If you drive this tank straight at someone like this, you are a numpty. You are going to get penned 9 times out of 10, and I think that's one of the reasons why the tank is actually pretty unpopular in general, general chat and forums and such. I think it's madness. I think this is an absolute gem, and if you haven't been driving up the second Russian heavy line, you should. And speaking of that, let's have a look at the heavy line. Now we're gonna go through each of these tanks. The T150 is an absolute perler. Absolute perler. Where are we here? Service record. This is the Russian heavy line. All right, so we start with the T150. So we're running 48 games in that at 77%. The KV3, 131 games at 77%. Now, I sold the KV4, but we weren't doing too badly at it. 70 games at 61%. The STI, 222 games at 62%. And the IS-4, 77 games at 62%. Now, nearly all of those have been solo. Only a very, very few in platoon. It's a strong, strong line. You should be grinding up it. If I had to grind up one heavy line, it would be the second Russian heavy line. And that's taking into account how much I love this monster right here, the IS-7. I have a real soft spot for low-profile tanks. If we have a look at the Rusky tanks, the heavies, Tier 8 and Tier 9, you're going to note, where's our Tier 9s? You're going to note the IS-3, which I think is an absolute perler when it comes to brawling and muscling around. It's a lot more manoeuvrable than the IS-4, but look at the size. Chassis-wise, the chassis of the IS-4 is every bit as low as the IS-3. You look at the STI, it's a much bigger tank. It's a hull-down monster, and it's a great side scraper, but the low profile on this thing, for me, just give it the edge. Now, in terms of weaponry, there's no contest. The IS-4 has an improved gun over the STI, if only in a few marginal stats. For instance, the STI, it's same dispersion, but its aim time is 3.4 seconds, a lot like the IS-7, and it's got 4.7 rounds per minute. That compared to the IS-4, which has 5.29 rounds per minute, a 2.9 second aim time, and the same pen numbers and alpha and such. 420 alpha, so it's a healthy chunk of alpha. It's nothing special. It's not like the E100, who has that enormous 620 alpha damage average, which is massive, but only 3.69 rounds per minute, and a much poorer armour piercing profile of 238 for its standard AP rounds. With the E100, you are really forced to fire heat a lot more than you are with the IS-4. It's also got 0.40 dispersion. So I think the gun suits the tank well enough, and they do. It's amazing the job that Wargaming does at balancing these tanks out. I think if this gun had a better dispersion or a faster rate of fire or a higher alpha, it would be unbalanced, because it's such a great side scraper and it's got such a bouncy armour profile. As it is, I think the gun is right in tune with it. It reminds me a lot of the gun on the IS-8, and if you like that gun, which I do, you'll be very, very happy with the way this gun performs. I carry, in terms of equipment, you will be carrying a toolbox on this tank at all times. You want that repair skill maxed right up in terms of your perks. I've got repairs at 20% with a toolbox. That means I'm repairing my tracks 45% faster, and that's key in this game. I've got vents and rammer, because you want all the speed you can get out of that gun, and your handling and such is really paramount. I also run an engine turbo boost so that I can get to the spots quicker and set up for side scraping and holding strong points. My loadout, I've got 5 heat. It fluctuates. It all depends on how I'm feeling and how badly I want to win. But you can manage without that. It's just a great tank at the end of a great line, and you really can't beat that. We're going to have a look at gameplay in a tick after we have a look at the armour profile, but I should let you know the gameplay is going to be all about side scraping, angling, and some of the tactics for this tank, and we've got some cracking games. I'm also running a game from Aegon, my good mate Aegon, Storm_Aegon. One of my regular partners, he sent me one of his games in the IS-4. He's a great bouncy castle driver. I call this and the ST1 the bouncy castle. Pimp Daddy calls him the bouncy castle, and he's dead on, because if you have a look at the armour profile, which we will in a sec, you'll see just how strong, even though the raw numbers aren't great, just how strong the armour on this tank is. So let's go and have a squeeze at armour. So here we have the IS-4. Now we're looking at this tank. This is the armour penetration model. We're looking at it from the perspective of an E100. So it's as if the IS-4 is facing an E100 with its top tier gun. Now you can see why this is such an effective side scraping tank. The hallmark of a good side scraper is the ability to create a very severe angle. You can see we're on quite a steep angle there. It's not so close. Like if you're looking at the tank like that, you can see the right hand side of the tank as we look at it is very difficult to penetrate. You can angle it out quite severely before it becomes easy to pen. Even with heat, you can have that angled quite steeply, and the E100 is still not going to penetrate that tank. And that allows this tank to be a very, very good side scraping tank. Tanks generally have to fire heat at it to penetrate it from any kind of angle like that. And if you've got it quite flat up and you're really playing it defensively, then you're able to absorb a heck of a lot of punishment. And that's why you'll get games where you'll take 20 hits without taking much damage at all, and you'll always be using a toolbox on this tank. You're mad not to, because if you're going to side scrape with it, you really want to have those tracks repairing quickly. Now, just pure old AP, you can see, even in an open space, you can get side on with this tank at a very steep angle. And because those shoulders, where the white spot is there, which is actually a shell, are so severely sloped and angled, it's very strong, even in open ground. And if we just look at that, that's the kind of angle you're looking at it from above. Almost a 45-degree angle to the target. And yeah, very good armour. And it's because it's not just flat sides. Like if we have a look at the E75, for instance, the German Tier 9, which is an excellent side scraper. It has very flat sides. So it angles out like that. It's got a big lower glacis, but you can see it's got very, very flat sides. However, when it turns enough, and that turns white, and that turns green, the IS4 doesn't have that same issue because of those shoulders, which are angled as well. And you'll see what I mean. Again, now I've illustrated it there. We'll have a look at it from here. This is what I'm talking about. When it turns, those shoulders are angled away, and they're actually very, very steep. Look at the slope on that. From that side, you can see the slope on these things is just absolutely crazy. That's an angle of 61 degrees there, 64 degrees there. And even though this is so thin at the front, all you've got to do is turn the thing, and the effective armour goes through the roof. So there you go. The gun depression is nothing to write home about. It's negative 6 degrees of gun depression, which is fair enough. It's not huge, but it's not terrible either. There's tanks with worse in the game who do a lot more. The turret itself is very strong. You can hull down with this turret quite comfortably, which is lovely, because the ST1, one of the best things about it is its huge big turret while maintaining this bouncy profile. And it's no good being a side-scraping tank if you can side-scrape effectively, but your turret's so weak that they can just put shots through your turret. So, yeah, that's the armour. There's a lot to love about it. You've got to always hide that lower front plate. You see the lower glacis there is very, very weak. Where all those dots are, it's very, very weak. And that if you're driving straight on at someone like that, you are going to get penned. It's just crazy. Anytime you're in a firefight, you are going to be angling and wiggling. And you'll note in my gameplay how often I'm angling and wiggling this tank to create bounces and bad angles for the opposition player. So what's left to say about this tank? Well, we've talked about the height and how much I love a low-profile tank. We've talked about the armour. We'll talk more about the tactics of side scraping and the way to utilise the pros of this tank when we go over things in the gameplay. Myself, in terms of equipment, everyone runs a rammer, hopefully. I run vents on this tank as well, and I run a toolbox. You'll be doing an awful lot of side scraping. You will need to get your repair speed for your tracks up. I'm also fully done in terms of perks at tier on the heavy perks there, which means we get repairs, and that decreases the amount of time you spend in repairs. So basically with toolbox and repairs, you're looking at about 45% off your normal repair time for a track. And that can be life and death. It really can. I would highly recommend that you use Speed Boost. Why? My thought in this is pretty straightforward. If you are going to be moving forward with this tank and get into a position you want to side scrape in, you've got to be there before the enemy turn up. There are certain maps like Black Goldville, Middleburg, Rockfall, places like that where being there first will literally give you an extra couple of shots into the enemy and allow you to be set up and on the defensive rather than being the guy attacking the person who's side scraping. In terms of ammunition, I'm running a loadout with 8 heat in this. Now that's excessive. I probably shouldn't be running that many heat, to be honest. It's just crazy. I ran it, I don't know why. I was just feeling like running 8 heat that day. Normally I run about 5 on most of my tier 10 heavies. The reason being, they're 5.5 grand, they're 5,200 credits per shell. If you fire 8 of those, that's 40k off the price of admission straight away. You're not going to make money with tier 10 tanks. If you're driving these tanks, you're not driving them to make cash. So yeah, I think that's it. The biggest thing with this tank is learning how to side scrape properly, and you should be able to side scrape properly by the time you get here. The fact that it can both side scrape and go hull down while maintaining a low profile is just gravy. This is my new favourite tier 7 heavy. My previous favourite was the IS-7. I've never been a big E100 fan. I don't drive it very well. And the E5, for whatever reason, I just don't do well in this tank. I don't know if it's an outlier or what, but I don't do well in that tank. I've had some big games in it, and I've had some good runs in it, but yeah, anyway, not about the E5. So there we have it, guys. The IS-4, hell of a tank, highly recommend it. If I had to pick one tier 10 heavy to drive, this would be it. And if that's not a glowing endorsement from me, I don't know what is. Well, let's go and have a look at the gameplay. So one of the best things about this tank is it's got a good hit point pool and it can side scrape well. Now that's really important, not just when you're trying to deal damage, but when you are trying to hold the line. There are 3 E100s here, ladies and gents, and a T62A is on the far flank. He is flanked hard and fast. Now we are going to have to hold the line. So what we've done is we haven't run away, we've just run to cover and run to support. So now anytime these guys come out, they're going to have to come out to a position where the rest of my team can hit them. Now, I'm not firing at that T62A. Very simple arithmetic. If I fire at the T62A, all these E100s know that I don't have anything in the barrel, and they will roll forward and hammer me for it. While I've got something in the barrel, they're thinking twice about moving forward. You'll see, even firing heat, we're going to bounce this one off this E100 here. He might not have been firing heat, actually. It looked like standard AP. We're going to jink. We track him. Going to jink just a little bit, kill his shot, and the E3 takes him out. Super tough tank. Just super tough. Look at it. If not for that ability to side scrape and get around and that hit point pull, we never would have made it through. We don't have many left when we finish this one, boys and girls, but we do nearly 3k damage. Again, that's nothing spectacular in its own right, but we do allow the team to do an extra 2,300 damage assisted, and we obviously get the steel wall there. So just a game that illustrates how super tough this tank is. Now, if you want to see a game illustrating how tough this tank is, you won't find much better. We're going to take 2 shots on the way to that bunker. This is a 4 medium game for the opposition team, and they've got a few heavies in there as well. I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of their team coming up here, so I'm moving forward. There's a great spot up here, and I'll show you why in a second. You can side scrape off this bunker so effectively. One of the issues with side scraping in this position normally is that anyone in the cap circle or down low can hit the side of your turret. That's not the case with the IS-4. It doesn't worry about that. It's quite low to the ground. You've got a slight mound in front of you, so your lower glacis is quite well protected. The concrete pylons in front of you break up incoming fire, so it's very difficult to aim shots, and even more, this is very exasperating for these guys too. You can see how many shots we bounce and how many we take on our tracks, but even more effective is those bushes in front of us. They don't hide us. What they do hide, however, from the guys back there firing in, is the location of our weak points and when the hit boxes are red and when they're actually visible and available to shoot through. And that obfuscates, it obscures, it makes it very difficult for them to effectively fire upon us. And it's for that reason that I love this spot here. We're obviously holding the line very, very well. We're taking a lot of hits, we're stopping a lot of incoming damage, and we're stopping them from moving forward and flanking against the guys that are lower down on the bottom end of the map, trying to get the job done. And it's obviously a close game, this one. It finishes up fairly closely in a 2-on-1 at the end, but it could have gone either way, and I think that move at the start to actually pressure up and stop these guys where they stood was a big part of it. Now, this video, all the gameplay, there's a lot of side scraping is going to happen. It's good in open field warfare as well. You can move and wiggle, but there's no guarantees, whereas all these guys are seeing for the most part here is impenetrable flank armour. And that's, you know, angling the tank creates angles. It's all about angles. And there's anything that is 70 degrees and above in terms of slope will auto bounce. Anything that is 20 degrees and below on the sides is an auto bounce, regardless of the armour thickness. Or you can be overmatched, but we won't get into that here. You're not going to get overmatched in a Tier 10 IS-4. And you can see they don't have any angles to attack with here. I just love this tank. The ability to get forward and just soak up that much damage from a couple of machines like the T62A. If they're firing heat, they've got, you know, 340 average pen. There's no way that that you can just soak up that much damage from these guys, but it does. And it doesn't look like that tough of a tank. It's forward mounted. I've always found forward mounted turrets to be quite poor in side scraping, but because it can get so wide out, because it can angle so far out, the turret doesn't really hold it back. What holds it back is the ability of Bushka to actually aim properly, as you can see there. Now, the IS-3 played a good game. He was quite patient and did quite well in not getting hammered by me, but at the end of the day, it's a Tier 8 versus a Tier 10 tank. I'm just hanging around there waiting until we make sure that Jagdpanzer's okay and he's in the cap circle. Then we just roll forward and finish this poor guy off. Always tough being a Tier 8 in a Tier 10 game. And we've all been there plenty of times, so you just got to suck it up and roll with the punches. Now, the next map we look at is going to be Black Goldville, another side scraping bonanza. But I mentioned earlier I run an engine turbo boost. The reason is I want to get to spots like that bunker there first, or at least with minimal damage. You can see here, and again, 3.5k, a lot of bounces, 19 hits received. But I run engine boost and it gets me up over the top before the enemy does, or generally it does. Sometimes they'll pump through too. This T62A is firing at the T62A behind me. There's our first bounce. Now, something to note about when you're side scraping in this tank effectively, you want to give yourself distance between you and the obstacle you're side scraping off. That allows you, when shots like that Object 268 shot just there come in, you can move forward quite dramatically and dodge. It also allows you to stall them. So I move forward. When I fire a shot, they come towards me. They want to come around the obstacle and they want to hit me in the side. I move forward and stop. They stop to allow the reticle to focus on a weak point, and then you move forward again. And then they stop when they move forward to enough to get a shot, and hopefully by that time you've given yourself the opportunity to reload and you can put another bit of effective fire into them. Whereas if you're stuck hard up against the wall, when they move forward, you've got nowhere to go. They just come round till they get a shot, and that's all there is to it. Now, admittedly, there is a few tanks here that I'm side scraping against, but the next shot that the Jag Tiger gets into me is just a joke. I'm so square on here. Anyone could pen that. That's a terrible shot, and I should be spanked around the back of the woodshed for that one. You see what I mean by moving forward? That ST, he's got the stock turret. I'm not too fussed about him. The T-34, geez, they've got good pen on T-34 firing gold. You know, it's a great tank, that tank. But we move forward. That's what I'm talking about there. When you get to move forward, you interrupt their angles and their aim. The T-34 does actually pen me, but come see, come sa. And we get another shot into the ST1. That's a great spot for side scraping. Those two spots I showed you there will both work very well depending on the situation. Obviously, nothing helps if you're outnumbered and outflanked. But if you get into trouble with this, you can always just look at him. He just moves away. There's nothing there for him to shoot. He knows it. The Object 268, he's had enough. He's waited his turn. He's coming up. You can't bounce everything. And a Tier 10 tank destroyer firing heat, as you can see there, is always going to go in, but turnabout's fair play, boys and girls. If he wants to fire heat, we'll put one right back through the middle of him. That's our one kill, our one and only kill. We got plenty of bling in this one. We did over 4k damage. We had nearly 3k in assisted damage. Steel walls, spotters, patrol, Confederate, all kinds of things. 12 shots dodged, nearly 3k in assisted. Surprised we didn't get the mastery badge for this one. Someone got a mastery badge for this one. This is Agon, my good mate Agon, on Falls Creek, or Fails Creek as we like to call it. Fails because there's now 4 blokes up there at the bridge. The Object 704, the Jag, Panzer E100, they're all up there guarding a bridge. Good on them. I hope they cap it. What a bunch of numpties. Agon does a really good job here of always playing the angles. You'll see this T-54, I don't know if he's got heat in the spout, but regardless, once he gets up there, he doesn't have enough gun depression to fire down into the IS-4. Agon's a good IS-4 driver. He drives the bouncy castle very well. And look at him, he immediately finds something to start side scraping off. Just in case he has someone come down on that T-54, wants to make a move. He's got himself good and proper, ready, steady, go. Now you can see the numpties over there on the bridge. They're looking to snipe. They're not really doing anything. I mean, when are these people going to wake up? If they'd gone en masse, the red team, to the cap circle, they'd be screwed. Everyone on the bridge is just wasting time. Now Agon gets a good one into this E50 and then immediately backs away. Good on him. Well done, Agon. Comes back over the top of the ridge, taking his time, making sure that all his fire is effective and that he's giving them very limited opportunities to return it. The Object 704 wants help over there on the bridge. What are you doing, boys? I mean, seriously. Agon's got a T-54 there, or T-62A rather. He features quite prominently in this video, that T-62A. Agon's got fire into him. There's now an E50 as well, always changing his angles. You'll note he's not giving these guys any straight shots at his tank. There you go, he's on the angle again, bouncing one. Misses the return of serve, but he's not giving that E50 an opportunity to put much in there at all. And you've got to love this tank for that. I mean, it's not always going to win games. You're not going to win everything unless you're a freak. I'm not a freak. Agon's a good player, but you know, there's no unicums as they call it here. It's more about making sure that your tank gives you the biggest opportunity to win. And you can see the angles he's putting on this E50. The E50 tries to side scrape, but he just doesn't have the ability to stick the tank out far enough. Look at the width on the IS-4. He still hasn't taken any damage. And yet, this is why it works as a front-mounted turret side scraper. It can get such width on its tank. And he finishes off the E50, still not taken a spot of damage. It can get such width on its side scrape that front turret's not really a negative. Now they're down 2 tanks to 4. The guys on the bridge, hip hip hooray, they folded like a cheap deck of cards. Imagine if they had just rolled over here and all gone into the cap circle. The game would be over by now. But anyway, we digress. One into the side of the T-54, an E-75 pops up here. Agon's got a good angle though, very handy. Bit of a video jam here, but when we come back, we'll see Agon's changed his tactic and he's now into the E-75. The E-50 nails the T-54 and it's down 3-2. There's an IS-7, a T-62A and this E-75 left. But both the good guys are on the E-75 at the present. Now an unlucky shot there, but he's had a couple of lucky shots, so you can't really begrudge anyone. Always driving at an angle. Always driving at an angle. Good stuff, Aig. Look at that. Here we go. Here comes the T-62A. Yeah, buggers. Good shot to get in on that. Now he's got to make a decision here. Does he chase that 62A or does he finish this E-75? And I think he makes a wise one. You've got to take that low hit point tank out of the equation. You saw there that the cap circle was lit up. That means the IS-7's coming to town as well. But they're looking pretty good. Agon has got plenty of hit points left. Geez, he's done really well bouncing. The old bouncy castle is living up to its name. The E50 is rolling up to deal with the T-62. They're looking up here for the T-62 right now. And there goes the IS-7. pops T62 at the same time. Now Aegon's got to make a decision here. The T62, he's going to get one into him. Very nicely done. He is now a one shot for both him and the E50. The E50 goes off to chase the T62, and Aegon is forced to turn around to deal with the IS-7, who has blown adrenaline and is looking for love. Now the E50 unfortunately gets himself cornered here, land Himalayan, and gets shot, gets fire from both sides, both the IS-7 and the T62A. He does, however, call Aegon a noob, which is a bit rich considering Aegon's pretty much carried the game thus far, done a heap of damage and held this area around the cap quite comfortably. If it wasn't for him, it would have been all over long ago. Now, he's got the IS-7, key kill, but he has a T62A on his back and not much he can do about it. Not enough traverse here to do a whole lot. But the bouncy castle is working overtime. He's taking hits, but he is getting heaps of key bounces here. And that T62A, he's rushed, he's not getting it easy. And you can see the angles are always changing. It's never an easy thing hitting the old bouncy castle. He's going to miss this one. But look at this, here it comes. Does the right thing, angles again, gets another bounce, and he's not going to miss this one, ladies and gents. Great game, eh? There's your gold mastery badge, boys and girls. And you can see even in open field fights, this tank does exceptionally well. It's got so many odd, awkward angles for the enemy. Over 5k damage there from Aegon. He bounced a fair bit as well, and plenty of key ones. That was the real thing, wasn't it? 18 shots received, so there was plenty of hits on him. Now I've blown my turbo here. I'm on Middleburg. We're rolling forward. Same deal as always. This is why I run an engine turbo, so I can get to the side scraping spots before the enemy does. You can see that IS-8. Now an interesting thing on the IS-8, IS-3, the IS-7, all of them, it's fool's gold. You can't shoot where the track meets the pike, which is right there, because you'll just get track every time. It looks like it disappears, but it's not a weak spot. It's actually spaced armour. Now we're bouncing one from the E100. You'll note, again, I am not right hard up against this wall. And you'll see there's a Yag Tiger that we have quite an interesting battle with that illustrates the point perfectly. If you go hard up against the wall, you leave yourself no options in terms of movement. Now we're just, the E100 fires, it allows us to side scrape out and do whatever we want. I'm telling everyone that we're getting stuck into this E100. We're firing heat. We're taking our time. He's not looked at us. There he goes. We move in. Just takes out a track. We've got him on a reload here, so we're definitely going to get this one to go down. He's dropped adrenaline. He knows it's all or nothing, but he's still wide open. Eventually you're going to move. We probably over angle here. We give him a weak spot, and he takes a big chunk of derp off us, deservedly. I think he might have even jammed that into the back of the engine deck. Either way, we've absolutely decimated him. So we've put fire into the IS-8, we've put plenty of fire into the E100, and the Object 704 on our team nails him, good and proper. We take out the Tiger. We switch back to AP here, by the way. And now we're free. We've held that flank. We're free to help. This Pershing, I love a Pershing, or a medium tank rather, that flanks and flanks with intent. He's flanked, he's got through, and instead of mucking around sniping up the back, he's moved all the way down to put effective fire into the back of our team. And he got taken out, but this is a tier 10 game and he's a tier 8 medium, so good on you, Neo 118. That's the way to play. Now, there's 4 tanks left to go through. It's 4 each. They've moved up to a very strong position here. We get fire in here. We just get one on the very edge of that lower glacis. It's what you get for rushing up instead of side scraping off this wall. I pushed out in the open with a really bad angle, but I didn't that time, and that's why I love my IS-4. You can see how well it goes now. I've been looking around, where is this Yag Tiger? Can't see him. Where is he? We're going to go out there and have a squiz. Just see what's going on. There's the IS-8. There's the Yag Tiger on the left. We immediately start reversing, but he's got He's got a stone cold there. We should probably have just given it up here, but we hold and put another one in. Now we're in trouble. This is what I'm talking about, where we side scrape in, but we don't side scrape all the way in. You'll note we're not hard up against the wall. We give fire. We push forward. He stops to aim the weak spot, and when he stops, we move forward again. We ruin his fire. That's why you give yourself a little bit of space when side scraping. And now we're going to face hug. We want to get straight into him as quickly as possible so that he doesn't have an easy shot. And textbook stuff, just nail him. You can see there a couple of things. That giving yourself space on your side scrape is really important. And when you're desperate in a tank like this, it's got such good bouncy armour, get up close and personal with them and don't give them the opportunity to pick their weak spots. Really get in their face and basically hold on to them and just punch fire in them as quickly as you can. And we finish off the object to cap off a gold mastery game. So that's 2 mastery games you've seen. Now the next one won't be a mastery, but it's a bloody fun game. We did, how much damage did we do there? We did just over 6,000. Lots of bounces, lots of other bits and pieces, steel wall, the whole 9 yards. Now this is a game I played in platoon with Pimp Daddy. He's in the T110E4, the monstrously big American tank destroyer. Now, he's a pretty quiet first 3 quarters of this game. He does the right thing. We move up really quickly and start dispensing justice, but there's a T62A down there. Now, we think about hanging around the back, but I'm the only Tier 10 heavy in the game, and I know that my job's at the front line. And I've also got a very good platoon mate who is going to hang back there and make sure that T62A doesn't come up and rip us apart. Now, this E50 was so desperate to get the kill on this, was it an ST over there, the Pershing over there, that he basically gave up all his hit points to do it. So we've had 2 shots for 2 damage, 2 damaging shots for 2 attempted shots. And we're going to make it 3 here. So we're doing quite well so far. That E50M has been dusted, he deservedly so. There's a couple of issues here. You'll see that bunker spot. Now that bunker spot is tenable only when that T44 is not up there highlighting and spotting them the whole time, and the IS-8 and the IS-3 that will appear over there on the left are not able to just pour fire in there. Now, if they're a low enough profile tank, they can hide behind that bunker, not have to worry about fire, can bounce. However, the pattern that's behind there is not low enough profile at all. He is going to get torn up in no short order by those guys on the left. So that's why I make this move, which may seem a little bit like lunacy, but was actually a calculated move to try and give us a hand, because I could feel that things could very much have gone awry here. We move up, and I'm trying to engage these two and keep them off that pattern. But the T32 over there, I can't get sight onto him. He's a really patient guy. He didn't move from that spot till very, very late in the day, and it kept me pinned. And you can see the pattern's going to go, and the IS-8's going to kill him. He hasn't bothered checking me at all. He's just not interested. He's just going for the pattern. This is the first shot we miss. Yeah, and there's the pattern gone. The IS-8 hammers him. It's now 3 of us versus 5 of them. And one of them was that T28 Proto who got taken out by that T62A, but Pimp got him. So it's now 4 on 2, and I am the main course. Look at this. They're rushing. Now I'm going to bounce shots here. You can't help but bounce shots in this tank, but you can't bounce them all. When there's 3 heavies looking at this many angles at you, you've just got to pick your poison, basically. And we're just retreating, turning, bouncing, trying to actually not get destroyed, waiting for Pimp to turn up, hoping he's going to show up and give us a chance. Now, we've done really well there. We've put a couple of shots in. We've done a couple of key bounces. We're going to get another key bounce on this T32, as well as putting a shot in. And there's Pimp Daddy in the E4, rolling down the middle. The ST1 doesn't care, though. We move under his gun depression. So he misses that shot, put one into him on the way down, and we're already turning towards him right now, hoping that Pimp Daddy can hold off the other 3 guys on the other side. Someone's firing heat at us. We've got another one in the ST1. And we've got to play for bounces. See the angle I'm putting the tank at here. Not giving him anything. Pimp's taken out the T-32. That shot was a disaster. That's the shot that should have gone in. But either way, the IS-8 ends up getting us. It's all on Pimp now, 1v3. But he destroys the IS-3. And he's on a long reload here. He's got to get this IS-8 before the IS-8 gets past him. The T-110E4 cannot traverse its turret fully, but 621 will do it. That's a one-shot. Boom, baby. And Pimp is going to roll down here and nail the poor old ST1. So from the jaws of defeat, we've snatched victory. I loved that. Pimp came in like some kind of charging lunatic, just jumped right in the middle of them and sat himself square where they couldn't get at me. You've got to love a good platoon, mate. So a second class, just over 5k damage. Pimp with 3k, but I think he did it all in the last minute. Absolutely destroyed him. Well, there you go, boys and girls. I think it's a great tank. I highly recommend it. It's at the end of a brilliant line of tanks. All of them very enjoyable. Lots of side scraping to be had at tier 7, 8, 9, and 10. And certainly a tank that's a great brawler. Gets up close and personal and rips them apart. Now, I've been Bushka on Blitz. It's been lovely having you here as always. Make sure you come along and join in the conversation on the game discussion forum of the Asian portal under the English-speaking section. And stay safe out there on the battlefield. Follow me up on Twitter and have a beautiful day, guys. Thanks very much for having me.